April 6, 2000. As investors endure Wall Street's wild rides, the nation's top business leaders are betting the bulls will continue to forge ahead. And one trip to the post office could bring all your bills up to date. We'll tell you how.
First Business, America's news and information leader. Now, here's Trish McShane.
Good morning, I'm Trish McShane in Washington. Barton Eckert has the day off. With the stock market having one of the most volatile weeks in its history, some of the ultimate economic and business insiders got together at the White House to discuss not only the market, but also what's being called the new economy, an economy that's being increasingly dominated by technology. First Business correspondent Pat Rogers reports.
A 30-year unemployment low, minimal inflation, and big gains in the stock market despite recent wild fluctuations. The economy seems in great shape. President Clinton had one overriding goal.
How do we keep this expansion going?
Some of the biggest players in American business and economics came to the White House to talk about the so-called new economy, an economy dominated by technology and marked by dramatic increases in worker productivity.
All the investments in these technology innovations have more than paid back double what was put into the hardware and software. That means that the sum has been much greater than the cost of the parts.
But it was a Monday sell-off of stock in Gates' software giant Microsoft that set off a dizzying stock spiral. The Microsoft slide came after a federal judge ruled the company had violated antitrust laws. Stock market swings have many investors wondering if high-flying technology stocks have peaked. Not if you look at the long term, according to Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan.
Security analysts projected 5-year growth of earnings for technology companies now stands nearly double that for the remaining S&P 500 firms.
Greenspan also said the current economic boom is far from over. He called it a wave that shows no sign of cresting.
In Washington, Pat Rogers, First Business.
On Wall Street, an improvement over Tuesday's session as bargain hunters surfaced in many of the battered areas of the market. The Nasdaq finished up 20 points, the blue chips down 120, the long bond sits at 5.79%, up in price, down in yield. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index down 0.75, volume over 1 billion shares. On the move, Bell South and SBC Communications are merging their wireless operations, creating the second largest wireless carrier in the U.S. Advanced Micro Devices announced it expects record sales of over $1 billion when it reports results next week. Sears gaining 23% after the retailer reported an increase in same-store sales and says it expects to beat Wall Street's first quarter expectations. Coca-Cola down almost 5% after the company said its sales will fall short of analysts' estimates. And for more on another dizzying day on Wall Street, here's correspondent Dave Browdy of Reuters Financial Television in New York.
The Dow retreated almost 131 points but managed to hold on to 11,000, while the Nasdaq rebounded after investors tested the bottom for the tech-heavy index early in the day, finally boosting it 20 points by the close of the session. Microsoft again in the news. Founder Bill Gates made a pilgrimage to Capitol Hill to lobby lawmakers following Monday's antitrust ruling. The judge in the case has set May 24th as the deadline for setting penalties, while Microsoft has indicated that it will try to seek to delay that judgment. Microsoft shares slipped 2 and a fraction on the day. Earnings season is slipping into full gear with investors anxiously eyeing first quarter revenue results from the dot-com sector. Bellwether stock Yahoo treaded water off 1 3/4. Analysts saying the time of investors shoveling money at tech shares at any cost is at an end.
Earnings will be the fuel, the engine for the score here that's been puttering a little, if you will, the last week or so. The first quarter numbers will be fabulous, especially the semiconductor area.
2 highly anticipated stocks debuted on the markets, insurer MetLife and donut maker Krispy Kreme. Investors couldn't get enough of Krispy Kreme, nearly doubling the initial price of $21 a share. A somewhat cooler reception for MetLife, the nation's second largest issuer of life insurance, ending up 3/4. Looking at the final numbers, the Dow stayed in negative territory all day, closing at 11,033. The S&P 500 lost 7 or 0.5%. The Nasdaq plunged at the opening bell but rallied steadily before losing steam in the final half hour of trading, finishing up 0.5% at 4,169. And that's the Reuters Market Report from the New York Stock Exchange. I'm Dave Browdy.
Yahoo exceeded Wall Street expectations for its first quarter profit, earning 10 cents a share. The consensus of Wall Street analysts had expected the internet portal to post earnings of 9 cents a share. Yahoo also showed much better than expected growth in both revenue and audience growth. Revenue more than doubled to nearly $229 million, up from just below $104 million. Registered users rose to 125 million from 100 million in the previous quarter. The Vanguard 500 indexed fund is now number one. At the end of trading yesterday, assets for Vanguard 500 totaled $107.2 billion, just above Fidelity Magellan's $106.9 billion. That ends Magellan's 11-year reign as the largest U.S. fund. Wall Street has been anticipating the changing of the guard for some time now, ever since the Magellan Fund closed its doors to new investors to limited size back in 1997. Both funds continue to perform well even in this volatile market. Year-to-date, Magellan was up just 2.9%. Vanguard 500 is up 1.8%. And checking your national forecast, much of the country will enjoy unseasonably mild temperatures today, but rain will accompany those warm temps in some areas. Here's All News Channel's Rob Pendleton.
Record heat in the Midwest is pushed eastward by a fast-moving cool front touching off scattered showers ahead of it. Some showers also in the Rockies, and a rainy Thursday expected in the Northeast. Very few clouds and lots of sunshine everywhere else. Highs still in the 60s and 70s for most of the country, 80s and 90s stretching from California to Texas, 40s and 50s in the far north. Rob Pendleton, First Business.
And coming up on First Business this morning, the custody battle over Elian Gonzalez may be coming to a close as his father arrives in the States this morning.
Hot tippers, midnight surfers, best friends, TV experts, handshakers, ex-neighbors, family brokers, online pokers, smart cookies. Ask everyone. Then, before you invest, investigate at Morningstar.com, an oasis of unbiased analysis and expert insight, so you can sift through chatter and invest smarter. Morningstar.com, your first, second opinion.
The 1804 silver dollar, the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, fine collector's coins valued at over $500,000 each, but neither with the patriotic significance of the first silver dollar of the new millennium. So special that nothing like it will be seen again for 1,000 years. It's the most anticipated silver dollar in history, the 2000 Silver Eagle, available to you now in extremely limited edition, featuring the beloved Walking Liberty colorized in patriotic red, white, and blue by the American Historic Society. Don't miss out on the most patriotic coin in 1,000 years, the first silver dollar of the new millennium at a special low price of just $39.95 with certificate of authenticity and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Save when you buy 3 or more. If you order now, we'll send you your coin in a handsome museum display case as a special bonus. Call and order now. It's the coin of legends, and it's yours now if you order while there's still time. The first silver dollar of the new millennium, just $39.95. Call now. You won't have another opportunity like this in 1,000 years.
Among the news headlines this morning, some of our nation's most valuable documents threatened by fire and major new developments in the Elian Gonzalez case. With details, here's All News Channel's Liz Brumman. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Trish. Good morning, everyone. The father of Elian Gonzalez comes to the U.S. this morning to seek custody of his son, even as Cuban leader Fidel Castro is already claiming a victory. In Havana, Castro declared it will be a matter of days before Elian will be reunited with his father. The attorney for Juan Miguel Gonzalez just returned from Cuba yesterday. He says his client should be granted custody of Elian as soon as he arrives. But Elian's Miami relatives are still demanding that a court decides the custody of the child.
Elian Gonzalez deserves his day in court, and when his father might be coming here, that's the ideal time for his father to participate with the Gonzalez family here in a fair process in family court.
It is time for this reunion to go forward, and he has come here and is prepared to stay here until he has achieved that objective.
The family's lawyers will meet again today with INS officials. At issue, when and how to reunite Elian with his father. But that's a reunion several hundred protesters gathered outside Elian's Miami home are vowing to stop. The demonstrators continue their vigil to keep the boy in the U.S. The House passes a ban on what's called partial birth abortions. More than two-thirds of representatives approve the measure, enough to override a presidential veto. The procedure involves removing a fetus late in the late stages of pregnancy. It's generally only used when a mother's life is considered to be in danger. Supporters of the ban vote call the procedure barbaric. Opponents argue the ban contains no provision for when a mother's life is in danger. The final tally is largely split on party lines. Some of the nation's most valuable documents are again threatened as fire breaks out at the National Archives. It's a second fire at the Maryland facility in less than 2 months. Authorities ruled the first blaze as an arson. Nobody was injured in this latest incident, and the cause is not yet known. 4 million cubic feet of records are stored in the archives. And that's a wrap of National Headlines. I'm Liz Bowman for First Business.
Thanks, Liz. United States Sales, one of the nation's biggest sweepstakes firms, has agreed to a multi-million-dollar settlement to end charges of deceptive marketing practices. The company has agreed to refund $30 million to consumers in 48 states and the District of Columbia. U.S. Sales also agreed to provide sweepstakes facts in large print on its contest entry forms, explaining that contestants have not yet won anything and that they are not required to buy anything to improve their chances of winning. On Asian markets overnight in Japan, the Nikkei ended weaker as high-tech heavyweights failed to wipe off their bearish mood. The dollar lost value against the yen at the start of the Tokyo business day. The Nikkei shed 239 points. Hong Kong edged up slightly. South Korea and Taiwan down for the day. Malaysia and Indonesia also down after battling tech stocks. And checking the markets in the UK this morning, a mixed bag with the pound flat on the day. The FTSE 100 opens lower this morning at 63.79.30. The yen up, the pound unchanged, the Swiss franc higher, and the euro down fractionally. Brent North Sea crude closed 10 cents higher at $23.75 a barrel in New York trading. In Mexico City, stocks regrouped from Tuesday's sell-off and moved higher. The Bolsa gained 78 points, closing at 72.84. The peso sank to its lowest close against the dollar since the end of February, down to 9.3 against the dollar. Vista Eye Care, the country's number 3 optical retailer, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. A spokesman says the move is part of a company reorganization, which will also include closing a number of unprofitable locations. The spokesman says the core business remains strong with a positive cash flow, and the restructuring will enable Vista to eliminate some of its high-cost debt. The company says the filing should have little or no impact on customers. And still ahead on First Business, to buy or not to buy? We'll answer the question of whether to buy or lease that new car.